Welcome once again to the world's most famous podcast with the guys that you love to hate, Group Chat After Dark. Michael, how are you?
We're here. I'm here. I'm ready to talk about some childhood memories. And but first, I got to say something. So,
Okay.
Internet came out against our last podcast about Woodstock 99.
Not our last podcast. Our last together podcast. We didn't make an actual show last month. We had to go to the archives. But yeah, the last time we were co-hosting.
Yes, we had some feedback on our podcast about Woodstock 99. Apparently, I don't do any research, and I should before I talk about things on the internet. Well,
I try to get you to research things.
Look, it's 2022. All right, I just shittily Google something and then act like I know what I'm talking about. That's what we do these days. This is what the world's come to. That's why Wikipedia exists.
This is hard-hitting content here. It doesn't matter if it's true or accurate.
No, it's just my opinion. It's my opinion. So,
yes, well,
Internet, I'm sorry I didn't do any research, nor was I able to live the event live because I was 9 years old. So
my favorite part of this whole controversy that you're speaking of is we did get a comment from somebody we don't know, which is highly unusual, on our YouTube, the video version of the podcast. And, he called out, hey, you got the lineup stuff wrong. He pointed out some inaccuracies. But then he later comes back and says, I'm sorry I lashed out. I really enjoyed your podcast. I just don't like it when things are out of order. I'm like, I get it. But, I had to give it to the guy for coming back and posting again and saying, I'm sorry. I actually really liked this. So I was like, that's something.
Yeah, and I hope he listens to this one. I think we've got a good topic in store.
I hope so, too.
I appreciate reflective listeners. He offers intelligent banter.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Well, I'm glad you got that off your chest. I know it's been eating away at you for months now.
It has. So I think it's time that we talk about the fall. We talk about the different things we have going on, but we don't talk enough about the number one most requested item at homeless shelters.
That's a good point.
That would be socks, because our former sponsor, Bombas, wouldn't shell out any money.
It's true.
To sponsor this fine podcast. So we dumped them down the drain, and then we scrubbed the sink with a Scrub Daddy.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Masterful.
The number one best-selling product in the history of Shark Tank. Scrub Daddy. You can get it at any fine retailer. Just Google Scrub Daddy. Shittily Google it for like 30 seconds.
Google.
You'll find it, and you won't be dissatisfied. You can use it to scrub your body. You can use it to scrub your plate. You can even use it to scrub your hair.
I don't think I would use it to scrub my body. I feel like it would rip my skin off my body.
It's exfoliating. It's keep you young.
But I feel like it would exfoliate like several layers of skin rather than just like that top dead.
Just burning.
Yeah. It would exfoliate you down to like muscle, I think.
Well, Internet, if you scrub yourself with a Scrub Daddy in the shower.
We don't recommend that, by the way. We're not endorsing it. But if you happen to do it, just let us know.
Let us know in the comments. Yeah, tell us about it here.
Don't add us if you do it and say we told you to do it, because we didn't.
And no picture. We don't want to see pictures.
I'd kind of like to see a picture.
Okay. All right. Well,
just to see what happens.
Make sure it's family friendly.
Yes. Yeah, don't go scrubbing your ween or anything like that. Try it on like your elbow. No, actually, don't try it. Don't try it. That's right.
Start with a small inconspicuous area.
Yeah,
that's how they tell you to test fabrics.
Yeah, exactly.
But
this
check
is going
it out.
Off the rails.
Scrubdaddy.com/GChad. Use the promo code, get 0% off your order. Special fall promo for all of you listeners out there. If you log in today, you can also get 0% off Scrub Mommy. So there's that.
Fantastic. I have both of those back at my home studio, but here I am in this. My virtual background is a two queen bed suite here in a Hilton hotel. So it's very convincing. Looks really legit, actually.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm really here instead of at home. I'm really just sitting in my bed. I'm eating crackers and getting crumbs all in my sheets.
Yes, he does like to eat crumbs or eat
I
crackers
do.
in the bed.
I like to eat crackers in the bed. You know, this is a tangent, and well, not even a tangent, but just a small sidebar. When I was a kid, my sister and I had a kids board game called Crackers in the Bed, and it was like I'll have to find a picture and send it to you, but it was like a almost a 3D type, the Milton Bradley box, and then there was a fold up of a kid who would put crackers in his mouth, and they were like the quilt had little cracker pieces, and I don't remember exactly what the point of the game was, but you would shove the crackers into the
Ah,
Cabbage Patch looking kid's mouth, and somehow it was a game.
I never heard of that one.
I I couldn't tell you. I don't think I ever really played it. I just shoved crackers through the through the hole in the mouth. But anyway,
Speaking of
uh,
childhood games, did you ever have that game that was the alligator with the mouth and you had to
the
push the teeth?
crocodile dentist.
Yes.
It's still at my parents' house. I see it every time I go there.
What was the point of that game? I've never, because you would
So
feel the teeth until you felt the one with resistance, and if you push that one, it would
you had to
smash you.
extract the teeth. Yeah. So it was I forget how many top and bottom, but it was on wheels, and it had like a tension spring. So you when you pulled the
Uh,
one, it would set it, and the mouth would close, and it would charge at you.
I
So
must have
then
broke
you
it because
lose the game.
ours never
Yeah.
moved. It just sat in one spot.
Yeah. So I don't think I ever actually played that game either, other than just you wanted it to bite down on you.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a great game. I got it as a kid for Christmas.
Well, speaking of lizards and
Yeah.
reptiles, amphibians, we're here to talk about the new series on Peacock. Um, we've gone heavy on Peacock recently, but Peacock, the series is called "I Love You, You Hate Me," and it's about the Barney and Friends adventures.
Or
And
Barney in the Backyard Gang.
that's right. Yes, Blue Barney in the Backyard Gang. So spoiler alert, internet, if you haven't seen it,
Mm.
it's like it just came out last weekend or some kind of weekend ago. So turn this off now if you don't want to hear spoilers. This is
We're gonna
your
try not to like detail every second of it. However, I'm sure something. I think we have some conflicting views here. Something's going to spark a discussion and probably reveal something you don't know about Barney. Um,
yeah.
so if you want to find out for yourself before by all means turn this off. But come back. We'd love to have you back.
Yeah, pause it and come back. You can always listen to segments as you watch the Barney show and kind of have us our recap
Oh yeah,
after each segment, maybe during the commercials.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure we won't jump around and do this in random order.
So let's jump in. So
Before we jump in, I want to ask you a question because
yes,
this is something, and we have not talked about this before. I Obviously we're talking about Barney. I was a little old for Barney when Barney kind of blew up.
yes.
I was this was a
You
Amy.
had just passed the age that
Yeah,
Barney was
I
a
was
thing.
outside
Yes.
of that. So you're a few years younger than me. Were you a Barney kid?
Yes, I was very much a Barney kid, so much so that so internet, I have a twin, and for one of our young birthday parties, we actually had a birthday cake in the shape of Barney, decorated as Barney, covered in purple and green icing. And in case you aren't aware, purple icing is disgusting. And we had two of them. And my birthday's in the winter. It snowed. No kids could come to the party. So we had Barney cake for like 8 months.
Yeah, and you had purple tongues for 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my parents played a joke on me and also got a Barney cake for my wedding. So at my
Oh,
rehearsal
no
dinner,
kidding.
there was a Barney cake. Yeah.
How did I miss that?
I'm not sure, but yeah, they played a trick on me and brought a Barney cake.
Man, it kind of sounds familiar, but I have no because
We also had
another
donuts.
another sidebar internet. Michael and his bride got married approximately 2 weeks before my bride and I married. So it was a very busy time.
It was.
And somehow, because I was doing photos for your wedding, I was your wedding photographer. Somehow I missed the Barney cake. It kind of sounds familiar, but it was a very busy time. So I hate that I didn't remember that going into this.
Yeah, so we were big on Barney. We were square in the demographic. I think when Barney premiered, I think 2 years before I was born. So by the time he was like full fledged, we were prime in the age bracket
Okay.
there.
Because I figured, knowing, because you're about 5 years younger than me. I figured you would probably have more, because I, again, I just didn't, my whole thing with Barney was I knew it was a thing. I'm sure I've seen parts of it. There were some parts in the documentary, like of the intro. I remember seeing him in the tire swing. So I
Yeah.
know I've seen it at some point. I was like, oh, I remember that, but I didn't know the content.
Yeah, so it
Um,
started Barney, like they imagined Barney. So
mhm.
he's like this doll, and then he comes
Like
to
a stuffed
life.
animal that,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then I think a couple they dropped that after a couple of years, and then he would just come out, and
yeah.
it was just
He's
Barney.
just hanging out in the
Yeah, he's
back.
hanging out in the playground, and there
Yeah,
here he comes running the screen.
yeah.
So I'm not sure why they did away with that. It kind of made more sense. I didn't remember him being a non-animated animal, but it made more sense that way. So
Well,
and
what's
the whole theme
interesting is,
song makes sense to me now that I know he is an imagined
mhm,
character brought to
yeah,
life like
yeah.
Frosty.
Because the theme song is kind of set to like Yankee Doodle for the Barney show, and I forget, I don't know the words, but
Yeah,
they
if you just
something
make
about,
believe him. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Barney will show up. So what's you mentioned it, he premiered a few years, a small public access type cable station in Texas, and they just made tapes to sell. It wasn't even broadcast anywhere. But they
Yeah.
started doing it in 1988, which is crazy because I had no idea. Because, like I say, when Barney was big, uh, it seemed like it just came out of nowhere. PBS had picked it up, and it was just everywhere. And it was something as a kid that, again, I didn't watch it, but I know it was a thing, and people mocked it. Kids mocked it. Kids my age be like, "Oh, you're a baby. You probably watch Barney." That type of
Yeah.
stuff. They would poke fun at it because it was a show for younger kids. And of course, you're like, "I don't watch Barney. I'm a badass." Um, but again, I just never really got into it. I know I saw it at some point, but I was too old. It didn't
Yeah.
appeal to me.
It's got a very limited shelf life. Like
Yeah,
if you're
yeah, yeah,
over the age of like 3, it's not
yeah.
going to do it for you.
Well, and that's ultimately, watching this document, that's what it was designed to be. It wasn't, because, and this is something I didn't realize until a few years ago. Sesame Street has kind of gone through different ages. Like it was for older kids originally, and it has gotten progressively younger. It was for grade school type kids and older, and then it's actually, somebody pointed out to me one time with the blow up of Elmo Mania, it got younger and younger. The kind of the uh, educational part of it got younger and more
Yeah.
preschool than grade school.
Yeah.
So when Barney was a thing, there wasn't a really programming for preschool age kids.
No, and
Um,
something I didn't know either, and I was when I was watching um the documentary here about We Sing, which was
yeah,
the
yeah,
video that inspired the
which looked
creator of Barney.
terrifying, by the way.
I was gonna say that. I was like, that was for children? That looks like a
Yeah,
horror movie.
yeah.
Oh my Lord, it was awful.
The brief clip they showed of it, I was like, wow, I can't believe, I don't know how this, but again, different time. I guess maybe it wasn't scary for, they didn't think it was scary at the time, but looking at it now, I'm like, that looks like it's scarier than like Chucky, like Child's Play,
Yeah.
like that whole series. It looks scarier than that to me.
It's like animated mouse people,
Yeah,
which
because
was
I thought it was gonna
really
be
weird.
puppets the way it was shaping up, and then it's like it's a teddy bear that comes to life, and then but it's really a guy in a bear suit, but like the face is open
The
and he has
face
all
is
this
like
makeup.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was bizarre, but yeah, that was, I'm like, it's
It
hard to
was
believe that Barney was born out of this fever dream of a tape they found at the video store.
Yeah, it was. And then it starts to go into like how did Barney staff its operations? Basically, people that bought the tape, they just kept buying more copies, and then they're like, "Hey,
Called
you want to
up.
work? You want to work
Yeah.
at Barney?
Yeah.
Okay."
That was
Uh,
that was my favorite part was the woman who became their like marketing person. Her kid rented a few of the tapes, or she rented a few of the tapes for her kid, and then she calls him up and it's like, I want to throw like Barney birthday parties. And a few days later she was the senior vice president of marketing. It's like, okay, come on in.
yeah. So they started, according to this movie, and I don't know how true it is because I didn't Google this part, but
Oh,
uh,
great. We're gonna get some comments.
according to the movie, the Barney's popularity was spread through phone blitzing. So
Yeah.
they destroyed the phones like a political campaign for Barney,
Hmm.
and it worked,
Yeah,
which
they
is
like
weird.
moms that were on board with the tape, like their marketing president, uh, would just call and say, "Hey, we got these tape." They call schools, they'd call daycares, they'd call anybody that would buy content for children, and that was how Barney became a television show. Was just tapes. They made and sold tapes. I guess kind of. They may have covered it, and I've forgotten, but uh, they would make one and then hopefully get some money to make another, and then maybe make three, and then each time they were hoping to sell more to make more tapes.
Yep.
Uh, and then, but what's something that was interesting, especially given the age of when Barney started, something was pointed out was how diverse the cast of kids were, which I was like, that's pretty actually impressive considering how long ago it was. Because, now those decisions are made going into, okay, we need diversity, we need representation of all races when we're making a show. Late 80s, that wasn't necessarily the case.
And they
So
were
I
in Texas. It's not like they were in LA, you know?
exactly, yeah. So I was like, that's actually pretty impressive because again, things I just didn't know, not being a Barney kid, and I honestly, kids don't notice that type of thing because they're just people to
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Kids
Yeah.
don't notice that somebody's skin color is different. They're just like, oh, it's just a person. So maybe obviously kids have it right. That's the way it should be. But
They did have
the
some
older
cool
you get,
stuff,
yeah,
and you wouldn't have known because I don't think you watched much
no,
Barney, but like they
I'm a
had
dick.
the girl in there that she spoke it's Tagalog,
Yes, yes.
but they also had a girl on the show that would speak Spanish from time to time. So
Hmm.
you got a little exposure to Spanish as well, kind of like
Yeah.
Sesame Street used to do. Um, so yeah, it was interesting to see the start. According to the guy that was inside the Barney suit, apparently the first Barneys were not blue; they just look blue. I don't
Yeah.
know why that is. Is that a camera thing?
Probably a combination of things because they were low budget. And
Oh
if you
yeah,
notice the first Barney, which I call the sexy Barney, he had like a chiseled jawline, and like I was like, oh, and he was slimmer. Like when the Barney that everybody knows, he's tubbier and he's all more round faced. But this first version of Barney, he was a looker. But he was like a darker purple, and
yeah,
I think the probably low quality film or video, whatever they shot it on, it just didn't translate well. In person it would look purple, but on camera it did not. It looked more of kind of a dark blue. So when PBS picks Barney up and they redesigned the suit and everything, well, whenever that was, it may not have been before PBS got him, but he's like kind of a neon purple. Like I say, the purple that everybody knows Barney to be, because that looked better on camera.
yeah. So did you catch the part of how Barney got picked up by PBS?
Yeah, the guy's kid just was engrossed with it, like
Yeah,
as so
some
many
guy in
other kids.
Connecticut.
Yeah,
Yeah, some executive, and he picked it up. He's like,
yeah,
"We're ordering Barney," and that's when Barney took off.
yeah. He called, and that's kind of the thread throughout this whole thing is how fast Barney went from an idea to a literally a global phenomenon. Uh, and like I said, that's my memory of it. It's just all of a sudden Barney was a thing. It
Yeah,
wasn't a thing, and then it was. Um, So that was just kind of the common thread. This woman wanted content for her kid, her 2 year old son. So that's what they made, and Barney was just birthed into the world like a gunshot. Like I mean, it came out that fast and became something that quickly. So
So they originally had screen actors for Barney, and it was weird because they kept jumping back between the body of Barney and the voice of Barney. But I guess he had voice actors. Like
hmm
one guy did it for like 12 years, which is
yeah,
wild. I don't know how you
hmm
do the same voice for 12 years.
people
Um,
have done it longer.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they eventually got to the point where they did a stage show
hmm
in Dallas there. I think it was in Dallas,
Yeah, I
somewhere in
think so. And
Texas.
that actually seemed pretty quick.
Hmm.
Yeah, because the original guy, the original suit actor had to quit right before the stage show.
Yeah, he
And
joined the army. Yeah.
that guy, the guy that became the quote permanent, Barney for the longest stretch, I think it's at least, sorry, don't at me on YouTube. It seemed like his first gig was that stage show.
Yeah,
Uh,
he did like weird 90s stuff like
mhm,
like live mannequin miming stuff as well.
yeah. No, the
Um
mime was
oh, the other guy.
the first guy. Yeah, he was a mime.
The
That's
second
how
guy
he
was
auditioned.
the second guy was a live mannequin, which I don't
Yeah,
understand,
he
but
did all kinds of acting and yeah,
weird stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Body performance art and stuff
hmm
like that. Um
and tantric sex.
yeah. Well, yeah, I have thoughts about this. So,
Well, and before you give your thoughts, I just want to say I keep seeing articles about how the guy that used to be Barney is now a tantric sex expert. But it seemed pretty clear to me in the documentary that he has always been into tantra, but even back then.
yeah, he was
And he
he
had to
signed an
say
NDA.
yeah,
Yeah.
he had to basically say I couldn't do both. I couldn't do any of the tantric stuff while I was Barney. I don't know if
Mhm.
that meant while he was in the suit or during his time as Barney, he was not allowed to teach classes or to take
Be
on
public
clients for
about
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
Um,
was it, but
but
yeah.
that's because I just saw an article. It's from 6 days ago that said he is now a tantric sex expert. But it seems to me that he's been that for a very long time.
I think he went to
So
college for it. So it was like,
yeah,
yeah, or
it's
whatever
definitely not
those,
something that just happened like
yeah.
right before this documentary. So
Yeah. So that was and he kind of brought the whole like crazy
mhm,
movement Barney, like
yeah,
wild arms and stuff to the
yeah,
light.
the kicks
Um,
and the spins and like the stuff that he was because they even tell you that the suit weighed like 60 pounds,
which is
which
crazy.
well it makes sense because you look at it. It's I mean I'm sure it's just a lot of foam in there, foam rubber, to hold the shape. So it's a huge suit. It would be pretty hefty.
So we gotta talk about my big beef with Barney here.
Okay.
What is up with his teeth, man?
Well, he had to
He
be a
has
friendly
he
dinosaur.
has straight teeth and they're
Yeah.
pearly white.
Yeah.
He's eating meat. He eats nothing else but
No,
meat.
no. He eats love, Michael. Love is what sustains him.
Well, he's eating a lot of it because he's fat.
He is fat. Like I say, if you look at first Barney and the longest version of Barney, the I guess current Barney, he put on some weight, but the sexy Barney was. Whew, I'm getting. So, whew, I gotta calm down here.
I do not like Barney's teeth. They look like dentures. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well, I agree because yeah, there's no segmenting. It's just it looks like he has two teeth that one on the top jaw and it's just really long and goes the length of his mouth, and one on the bottom the same.
yeah. So
It is
that's always
odd.
been my big beef with Barney.
So talk to me about because the documentary did not really go into this, and I was kind of I guess hoping to get more of an explanation because again I did not watch it. But in your background there, you got Barney and you
Yes.
got the two dinosaurs flanking him there.
It's
I
Dee
know
Dee and TJ. Yes.
one of them was Baby Bop, right?
Uh,
I remember Baby Bop being like everybody hated Baby Bop. Or am I
maybe
getting my?
I think you might be confusing them with somebody else. I think that's Dee Dee and the other one's name is TJ.
I'm googling. I'm doing some shitty googling because I swear one of them was Baby Bop. but I don't know which one was which. That's what I was going to ask you.
Oh, not TJ, BJ. I'm sorry, BJ the B. Oh, you're right. It is Baby Bop. Why did I
Baby
think her
Bop
name was
was,
Dee Dee? I don't know.
yeah, Baby Bop
Oh,
is the green one
BB.
according to this.
Ah, yes.
BB, Baby Bop.
Ah,
Okay,
that's
there you
why.
go.
See,
Okay,
see, I can remember things from when I was 4.
sure. I just remember I don't think Baby Bop was part of the show initially, and they added
Right.
her, and I remember the outcry of people hating Baby Bop, but they don't really talk about that at all in the documentary. I think
No,
they even interview I believe her to be the voice
yes.
actor for Baby Bop, but very very briefly. Like they just kind of barely touch on her, and it's kind of like in a trailer sense where they just cut to her real quick and she says something witty, and then you don't really see her again until like the second episode, and they still don't really use any of her interview. So I don't know why.
I
Anyway,
wonder if it was just a bad interview. I don't know.
could be, or they just didn't touch. I don't know. There's a lot of decisions with this documentary that I feel like were not choices I would have made as a
Oh,
producer
wow.
of this, but
I'm reading this. Apparently, BJ, who's the yellow dinosaur there, stands for Barney Jr.
oh, so
So
Barney
I,
was.
I'm thinking these are Barney's children.
Well, that's when I googled Baby Bop. It said, "Is Baby Bop Barney's daughter?" But I didn't click it because I don't want a lot of ads about babies.
Yeah. Well, I clicked on the website that said this, and
Oh,
it's
great!
not a
Now
good
they've got all your
website.
financials.
No, I don't recommend. Don't go to that website. It was the first thing suggested by Google.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah. So BJ is 7 years old. I didn't know that. There you
How
go.
old's Barney?
I don't know. 45 maybe. I don't know. Would you be dancing around like that if you're 45?
Hell yeah, if I could.
Let's see. I'm on the Barney fandom wiki.
Oh boy, that's you're getting in a rabbit hole now. So basically, if you don't know, if you're like me and you're an ignorant when it comes to the Barney, Barney just loved everything. And everything about Barney was good. Everything Barney did was a positive spin. He never really taught you how to deal with being pissed off. He was just, you know, just be happy and love and love everybody, and that was kind of his shtick. Uh, which in turn is why everybody hated him.
Yeah, and it's funny that we did an episode on Fred Durst not that long ago, because I feel like the hatred for Barney really peaked at the same time as Fred Durst's career. Like people were just pissed off at the world, and they needed
Wouldn't it be
to,
some shit if Fred Durst used to be a Barney kid?
right? Maybe he
Yeah,
was. I don't know.
no, I don't think so.
But I also learned from this website that is questionable that from 1996 to 1998, guess who the number one ranked children's artist was on Billboard's charts?
I mean, I would have to guess Barney.
It was Barney. It was
Yeah.
indeed Barney, which is wild, I think.
Could
He was,
you?
he was also
Would
named
you?
one of the 25 most intriguing people of 1992.
Intriguing is a great word because I'm intrigued to see if you will do me a kindness. And would you? There was a song Barney used to sing at the end of every show.
I will not sing the song.
You will not sing the song?
No,
Okay.
because
I had a Barney cake at my wedding. I'm
that
not
song
singing that song.
sucks.
It doesn't matter if it sucks. I just don't. I only know the opening words. I don't know the whole song.
I actually don't know that I know the whole song either.
Okay, would you at least just spoken word give me the lyrics that you remember to the song?
It is I love you, you love me. And then I only remember the dirty version.
What was the dirty version?
You don't know the dirty version of this
I don't
song?
think so. I mean, you might trigger some memory that I've lost.
I hate you, you hate me. Let's hang Barney from a tree.
Oh my God.
You didn't know
That's not that's not the dirty version. That's sick.
you
Which
didn't
is actually the perfect segue into probably the most intriguing part of the documentary for me. Because again, like I said earlier, I didn't I just knew people mocked it because it was a show for babies. I did not know because I was young enough to be shielded from this, I guess, about the Barney bashing,
Yeah.
which apparently was just as popular as Barney.
And what was the deal with that dude that started like the We Hate Barney?
I have a whole section of notes dedicated to him. I don't want to get there yet.
That's a
I
weird
just want
guy.
I want to introduce the idea of the hatred of Barney.
Yeah, so people
Uh,
used to get together and just like beat the shit out of Barney stuffed animals. Like that was the thing that they did.
yeah,
They enjoyed
so
it.
all the Barney memorabilia, which my wife and I actually watched the first episode of this together. And she's my age. She missed that. She remembers it being a thing. Same kind of memories as me. She did not recall any of this, but she had a great point. I think it was a college in Nebraska
Yeah.
that hosted this Barney bashing event, and there was all this news footage of it. Um, she brought up a really great point because they've got all these Barney dolls and like plaster things and like all this Barney merchandise, and she's like, they think they're really making a statement, but they they had to buy all that stuff, so they just were contributing to Barney Mania. I was like, I mean, you're right. Yeah, it was all official merchandise, so the money they got or the money they used to destroy that stuff just went right back to funding Barney.
Yeah, they just lined
So
Barney's pockets.
basically, but yeah, that was their shtick was just, and it started like it. At least this is how it was perceived in the documentary. It started with smashing merchandise, and there's a lot of kind of twisted videos, like to your point of let's hang Barney from a tree, which bothers me. Um, but like videos of people shooting Barney dolls in the head, like tying up. There were lots of videos of
Lighting him on
Barney
fire.
being
Yeah.
burned. There was one of him being crucified and burned, and it's like, man, this is some sick shit that I didn't know. I did not know that was
Well,
a thing.
so you're very familiar with young children's television today.
Yes,
I imagine somebody that had to sit through like 16 hours straight of Barney probably came to loathe it pretty badly. Because
maybe, but
there
at
were
the same,
reports they used it as torture devices for terrorists.
there's reports of that. But I mean, I don't. I, that sounds urban legendish to me.
Yeah, I
But
think so too.
so to your point, yeah, right now I watch the shows my kids watch. We watch them together because it's just what you do. I don't think that was the case then. It was,
Uh,
especially if you're getting a tape, you're putting the tape in and you're going to do whatever the hell else you want to do because that's the babysitter for however long. And if the kid wants to watch it again, great. Rewind, play because the kid's going to be occupied.
yeah.
So I don't, and I guess maybe even in the background, kind of the earworm of God, I hate that song. Like that drove people nuts. But to your point about this gentleman, because like I say, I made specific notes about him, and because it really bothered me.
Yeah, it's very strange. I did
This
not care
guy,
for that guy.
he sits down, starts telling you a story. I'm like, okay, he's got something to do with something. No, he was a parent of a kid who loved Barney, and they get the kid Barney tapes and let the kid watch Barney as much as she wants. So then this guy, he travels for work, and he comes home, and he's expecting his daughter to rush up to him and give him a hero's welcome because daddy's home from his business trip. But no, she's watching Barney, and that's what she wants to do. So he gets pissed off and starts the I Hate Barney Secret Society newsletter and then is thrilled, goes on talk shows and everything to promote his hatred of Barney and promoting, basically saying that kids that watch too much of Barney are Barney addicts and all this, all because he didn't get the attention he wanted when he got home from work.
Yep.
And I'm like, fuck that guy, because yeah, I'm sorry, your kid's gonna be engrossed in something
That's made for
and
kids.
that's made for kids, and you bought the tapes and let her watch them.
Mhm.
Sorry that she didn't stop what she was doing and come. Kids don't.
Care.
They're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
If I'm on business right now, if I go home tomorrow and my kids don't rush up and tell me how much they love me and miss me, I'm not gonna target my rage at whatever has taken
The
their
Coco
attention.
Melon. Yeah.
Bluey. I'm not going to go start a Bluey hate group because number one, I'm not a self-centered prick, but number two, I'm glad my kids are enjoying something, and it makes me feel less guilty for having to be away from for work because they're not just sitting around waiting on me to come home. Like
Right.
so it
Yeah.
just did not. And my wife and I felt the same way about this guy. I'm like, fuck that guy. That is shitty to do because you didn't get the hero's welcome you thought you deserved.
That guy really pissed me off. I was glad he was not there for very long.
Yeah, well, and then I don't know if you caught, as I know you said you didn't watch the second part, but he does come back,
Oh God.
and they attempt to, in a very, and I don't. This is going to sound bad because it's going to make me sound like I'm an asshole. He comes back and reveals that he struggled with alcoholism, and he was an alcoholic during this,
Uh
and he, I forget exactly his quote, but he says, "I thank Barney for what because I was." It what it exposed in me. And to me, it was sort of a just a little bit of a desperate attempt to quote humanize the guy and make you feel sort of empathetic for him.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, alcoholism is a disease and it's a terrible thing and it's not something, but did it make him do this? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I just felt like a scapegoat for him to be. Oh well, you can't be mad at that guy because he's an alcoholic, and he's been sober for a long time now. Cool, I'm glad for him, but he's still a prick for trying to take down the thing that his kid enjoyed
Yeah,
because
that
it took attention away from him.
that was just weird. It was
Yeah,
it was weird. I don't like care
I
for
was
it.
not happy about that.
Uh and then
Honestly, I was kind of in the middle Barney wise. But when this is revealed in the documentary, I my scales tipped in Barney's favor. I'm like, Barney's just teaching you how to love, man. He just wants you to love things and be happy. So I was like, I think I'm becoming a Barney fan as a middle aged man. I'm now a fan of Barney just because I hate that guy.
well, and they had somebody on there too, and they said something to the effect of like children ages 2 to 3, which is absolutely true. It's part of your developmental life cycle. They like to watch the same things over and over and over
It's
because it's
it's
familiar and
comforting.
comforting.
It's safe. Yeah, exactly. They
And
need that. The
that
repetition is huge.
that's really what Barney
Yeah.
did for a lot of
you
kids.
you're an uncle. You've been around nieces. What's the first thing a niece says to you when and maybe they're a little older now, but you pick her up over your head
Again,
and you put
yeah,
her down
again, yeah,
again
yeah.
because repetition is that they want that feeling again. They want whatever it is. If you sing a funny song again, kids love that. So
That's why if
repetition,
you ever tell a kid a joke that's funny, they're gonna say it for like
yes.
17 more times, and then you're gonna hate the joke.
Yes, yes. So that's repetition is, and that's just part of being a kid. Yeah, to your point, it's part of their development.
Yep.
Repetition is familiar, repetition is safe. That's what they need. So yeah, if you, I'm sorry, I'm gonna
Well, so
lower my
I
blood
just
pressure a
don't
little.
understand why the world turned on Barney, like a segment of the population turned on Barney so quickly. Like why they hated him so much. I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Well,
guess
and
because they needed something to hate.
there's plenty of theories about it. The angst of the '90s. That was not the society at the time. It was the whatever slacker attitude. Um, but something that I was not expecting to get out of this documentary was to love Steve from Blue's Clues even more than I already did
Yeah.
because he is featured in it as a talking head. Obviously, he's got a lot in common with uh, Barney. I don't think he was as universally hated, but there were rumors that he had killed himself and all these things because people can't let something wholesome just be something wholesome. And he even pointed out, you watch Sesame Street, that was what he grew up with. He loved Grover. He even says there's something broken about Grover. He's not
Hmm.
perfect. He's not
Yeah.
there's like a dark, and he says that about Bert of Bert and Ernie too. He's like, there's something broken there. There wasn't anything broken about Barney, which hence maybe That's why,
Maybe people
you
got
know,
jealous, and yeah, there you have that guy.
broken
Yeah,
characters don't get the hate because they're like, well, they're a little bit more relatable. Barney's not relatable because it's not realistic to be that happy about everything and to be that loving and understanding and just, joyful. So they had to bring it down. And that's
fair.
it, well, and that's the opinion they put out there, the theory anyway. So, but again, Steve from Blue's Clues is my jam. And I was way too old for Blue's Clues when it became a thing. But I remember my kid sister was huge into it. As an adult now watching my kids like to watch Blue's Clues, and it's not the new version. They like to watch Steve's version of Blue's Clues.
Yeah,
And it's kind of magical to watch the way he was with just looking through the screen and talking to these kids, and it's like, man, you're good at this, and he still is, because did you catch in
yeah,
the second part he turns and
yeah.
speaks to a different camera to talk to you, and I kind of melted inside. I was like, oh, he's talking to me now. Like I got sucked into it even more
Yeah.
because that's how good he is at that.
And that was not how the show was originally written. I either watched a short film or something about Blue's Clues, how it came to be. And this guy he was not a professional actor. He was
No,
just a guy that they
yeah,
found, and
it's
he
like a
was like,
skater guy.
yeah, and he was like filling in, and he broke the fourth wall and spoke directly to the camera.
Well, that's
And
they said
yeah,
that because I think we watched the same. It was like on
must have been,
Hulu or
yeah,
something, and
yeah,
they were talking about they really liked him, but he was like a skater. He had long hair. He didn't dress, and they were like, "Could you really kind of nerd it up a little?" Because they said there was something about the way when he did look in the camera and when he did speak, there was just this magic of that's what we want, and everybody else was good, but they didn't have that, and so his version of nerding it up was putting on that striped green shirt and coming in khakis, cutting his hair, and then what do you know? That's he's the guy forever. But anyway, that we're getting off on the tangent
well,
because I
I
love
will
Steve.
say, if you haven't seen Steve's love letter to millennials that he put out on
Oh
Twitter like a year ago,
yeah,
definitely go check it out. It's pretty
yes,
great.
I will put that in the show notes because yeah, that is great, and he's not dead or a priest or gay or
No,
like whatever all the
he
rumors
quit
were
Blue's
about him
Clues because he was losing his hair. That's why he
losing his
quit.
hair. He did not want to go bald as a children's television host.
Yep.
And
So
I get that. I respect that.
there you go.
As somebody who's so. But anyway, yeah, Barney just to the point of people attacking people. Like it's not just bashing merchandise; it's people beating up people dressed as Barney.
Yeah.
Uh, it's like, wow, this got bad. Um,
Yeah,
so
and so the documentary does a pretty good job of talking through like Barney's big peak, right? And his popularity and stuff. And then it starts going in some weird tangents. There's
yeah,
a whole segment with the San Diego chicken,
I was
and
gonna bring
the
up the chicken
fucking
here.
chicken is talking, and it's like, this is so stupid.
Which at first, yeah, and what he means by the chicken talking is they interview the San Diego chicken as they do the other
Humans.
interviewees for the
Yeah.
documentary, the other talking heads. He's actually sitting out, I guess, by his pool in the San Diego chicken outfit, and the mouth is kind of moving, and he's doing it in character as the San Diego chicken, which at first I'm like, eh. And then I kind of came around to it, and then it kept going, and I was like, okay, we need to just knock this off
Yeah.
because the great part about that is the San Diego Chicken incorporated Barney into his shtick at the
He
ballpark,
did. Yeah.
and they sued or attempted to because
And
that
they
was what I
lost.
gathered from the. I think maybe they actually did go to court, but it sounded like their legal team was kind of they didn't really do much. That
Yeah.
Barney's legal team would they sent out a lot of cease and desists, but they wouldn't actually
Yeah, because you
do
also had the
anything.
dungeon lord or whatever doing the role
It's
playing
another
game
guy I
thing.
didn't care for. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole second part of the documentary was pretty much trash.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have released it if it were me being the director.
It felt like, and we talked about this a little before. To me, it felt like you could have taken the little bit of interesting information from the second part of the documentary and smushed it in with the first one and made 1 hour and a half documentary as opposed to two almost hours. And it also seemed like this was edited for broadcast TV to me
Yeah,
because there would be build up, drama, cut to black, and
yeah,
then you'd start to build again. like
A
after a
lot of stuff
commercial
on
break.
Peacock is like that. I think it's just
Yeah.
stuff that NBC has in the vault or whatever, and
Yeah,
they're just
maybe
throwing it out
they
there.
didn't want to air it. Yeah, because it definitely seemed like it was edited for broadcast TV for me.
Well, and then so we got to talk about the formatting. So there was different segments of the documentary where they would do like the VCR grain in there.
Yes,
That drove me nuts. That was
really,
awful. Yeah, it looked terrible and also was not really needed, I
I
don't
didn't
think.
mind it. Yeah,
But I thought that was stupid. And then they tried to tie, there's a whole circumstance around the creator of Barney's son.
yes.
And he does commit or I guess he pled it down to voluntary manslaughter or something like that. He commits a murder. It's not related to Barney at all. I don't really know why they included it in the
Did he
show.
murder the guy, or did he
Yeah.
just?
Well, he tried to. The guy
It
survived.
was aggravated assault or assault with a
Yeah.
deadly weapon. I don't think he actually
Yeah.
killed the guy though.
Yeah. Attempted murder, I believe,
Yeah,
is the charge he had. But
yeah.
um, I don't know why they included that part. That didn't seem relevant at all to me.
That was the hook that got me because
Yeah.
they don't.
I thought the son killed the mom. I was like, oh
I
geez.
wonder there was something because they interviewed the babysitter and she's like, no, I don't. I thought he was a perfectly fine little boy. And then they cut to like a 2 months later interview with her, and she's like, I just don't feel like my conscience was weighing on me, and I didn't represent myself, and I just I don't think I was honest enough. And then they cut, and she's like, so the producer says there's more to say about her son, and she goes, oh yeah. And then they cut, and I'm like, well, some dark shit went on here, and I got to know what it is.
Yeah.
Which
It turns out
brilliant
it's not
because
really that bad
I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't.
because of Barney.
Well, I guess you could argue that it because the ultimate argument came down to he he smoked a lot of dope to cope with all the things that became of his life as a result of Barney, which amped up his anxiety, which amped up his paranoia, which amped up and to the point where he shoots his neighbor because he thought he was trespassing. But
Yeah.
like so I guess indirectly or maybe directly, but it did the first part of the documentary I felt like did really great kind of tapping into the family and what it did to them. And then the second part was just about that. And then I don't know, it takes some left turns. We
Yeah.
talked about, all of a sudden we're talking politics and what's going on today, trying to liken it to Barney. And I feel like that was filler content that didn't really need to be there.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you have to watch, I would say watch the first episode and then just
Yes.
Google what happened with the kid.
Spoiler alert, the son of the creator gets charged with attempted murder and then gets his sentence commuted by the governor of California.
Yeah.
Uh, so whatever. And they
And
try to
we just
tie it.
saved you about 30 minutes
Yeah, pretty
getting to the
much.
bottom of that.
Yeah.
So,
And the guy that's inside the Barney suit of Barney is a tantric sex master.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which I mean, he did a good job as Barney. So
He did a great job as Bart, which that's why they were like, he had such a great heart and was so good at we couldn't not have him be Barney. But the best line of the whole documentary was they're talking to him about his practice. And he says, so, but ultimately you have sex with these women, right? In your tantric sex healing or whatever. Ultimately, you have sex with these women. That's the And he goes, well, no, not everybody pays for a full session, which is what you would perceive as sex. And I'm like, oh, what we would perceive, but you don't. So you're not, and I'm like, okay, so yeah, you're just a gigolo. But anyway, I just thought that was a great line is what you would perceive as sex.
I enjoyed it when they panned to somebody and they're like, "Is David something or other in this movie?"
That's apparently what everybody asked when they said they're doing this. They're like, is he a part of this? Like, why would people not want to be a part of this if you were? So
It's
it's
a
it's a fascinating watch, I think. At least
so
the first episode. I
I was
was
gonna
really
say
hooked on it.
overall, what's your take? What would you recommend to the internet?
I I loved the first episode. I was hooked. Again, not knowing much about Barney. Um, all the things we've talked about here, I learned because of this documentary. I thought it was really well done. The editing, the storytelling. Maybe just read a synopsis of the second episode because it's another
Yeah.
hour, and you just again, I think there's maybe 20, 25 minutes of good stuff in there that makes sense in the context of this story.
Which is
Uh,
actually, to be honest with you, internet, that's where I turned it off, actually.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Michael did not make it through because he just couldn't handle the second one, and I get it. I understand.
it just was, it seemed like it was going random. So I was like, screw this. But um, I think it's good. I think everybody would get a kick out of it. It's really good if you were part of like the Barney
Hmm.
generation, remember Barney
Yeah.
and stuff. Um, there's a lot of random. I was just doing a quick read of some random trivia on Barney. There's a lot of random things that I didn't remember going on, which is pretty interesting. That like Barney originally lived with two of the kids in the show, and they kept him a secret from the parents. And then eventually the parents, they just wrote it into like, oh, the parents are okay with Barney,
Hmm.
so they don't have to keep him a secret anymore.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's interesting.
that. I don't know if this is the same type of thing, but if you were a Sesame Street fan, the character of Snuffleupagus
Oh, that's right.
was was the imaginary friend of Big Bird. That was how it was
And only
originally.
we could see him. Yeah, everybody else
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
see him.
The
Yeah.
grown-ups, nobody else could. It was only in Big Bird's mind, and the shtick was, "Oh, Snuffy's right here," and they're like, "Big Bird, Snuffy's not real." That was kind of how it went, and then somebody in that camp was like, "Maybe we shouldn't do this because we don't want kids to not be believed." Like we don't want to teach that. Basically, we don't want it to seem like Big Bird's a liar, or we don't want somebody to, if something happens and a kid says, "Hey, this happened," and they're like, "Yeah, sure,
Hmm.
you should take this." So then suddenly the big reveal of Snuffy, he's actually a thing, and people are like, "Oh, Big Bird, you were right." So maybe that was a similar thing with Barney. They're like, "Oh, maybe this isn't good to, keeping secrets
That's
and that
probably
type of
right.
thing." Yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. But
I mean, that
anyway.
explains why he no longer magically became animated. So that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah. Well, there was
Um,
that. I think in the second part, there was like a religious group that said that the Barney taught kids to use spells to conjure up evil, because
yes.
Barney was some sort of demon because they had to use an incantation to get him to life.
Yeah, the documentary didn't really touch on this, and I don't know, I may be completely making this up, but for a time, Barney's color changed. He was no longer purple. He was like reddish for a while.
Hmm.
And I think that hit at the same time when everybody said the Teletubbies were gay. Um, and so they associated Barney as gay because he's purple.
Oh.
Um,
Huh.
and I don't think that lasted very long. That was after the big takeover of the original
Yeah.
folks. So that's probably why they didn't cover it in much detail. But yeah, I distinctly remember because I have a younger sister. She was watching Barney towards the end of his run there, and he changed colors. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure
Okay. I mean, like they said that
that was
when
the
the
late
corporate
'90s gay
when the
panic
corporate
thing.
took
Yeah.
over, yeah, and the corporations took over and had to change a lot of things. They changed the voice, because everybody else left.
Hmm.
Um, but it's entirely possible. I don't know because again, and to that point, I do think this documentary was well done, but it does seem to kind of jump around a lot.
It does. Yeah.
And there's, like I say, they don't talk about the characters. They don't talk like they talk to some of the kids that are now adults. They were the kids on Barney. They talk to them, but they still kind of skip around. So it's not a whole, you know, uh, in depth story of Barney. But I think there's a lot to tell uh, that does get gleamed over or just kind of skipped. So there's that. I still think it was well done, but the story could have been told better. I think because they just seem to be skipping around some.
Yeah, I think it probably started out with a great design, and then they couldn't get some people to participate, and that kind of screwed them.
Could be.
But yeah, overall, I'd definitely give it a watch if you like documentaries and stuff.
Hmm.
I think it's a good one. It's pretty easy to watch. It gets moves through pretty good. So
I
I'd
can't believe
recommend it.
I knew I was going to forget to mention this, and this has nothing to do with Barney really, but it has so much to do with why I wanted to watch this documentary in the first place. Do you remember a film in the early 2000s called Death to Smoochy?
Yes.
It starred Robin Williams and Edward Norton,
Yeah, they're writers for the Smoochy show. Yeah.
Well, no. Robin Williams is, and I just watched the trailer again because I feel like I saw this when I was younger, but I don't remember much of it. But Robin Williams is like a kid show host who has to retire in disgrace. I don't remember why, but he was, up here, a Mister Rogers type, beloved. Something happens, he falls from grace. Edward Norton is now a purple rhinoceros who becomes the new guy, and Robin Williams' attempt to murder him to get back into. So that's the kind of the premise of the film,
Ah,
which of course and the whole reason I wanted to watch this was because that film triggered my fascination with kind of the seedy underbelly of kids show hosts, the
right.
real people behind them. Like as when I was a kid, loved Pee Wee Herman. Pee Wee
Yeah.
Herman was the man. I watched Pee Wee Herman every Saturday morning, every
Total
chance it
perv.
was on. And all of a sudden, Pee Wee's gone, and nobody's telling me why.
Total
Because
perv.
yeah, he was cranking down, got caught. Which I was just talking to somebody that it might not be that big of a deal these days, but in the '80s, late '80s, early '90s, it's a huge deal. And so Pee Wee is no longer a thing, and he just disappears. So that like that's kind of fascinating to me. I'm like, wow, that's you think of these people as perfect and wholesome and all that, and they're still people which are flawed.
Well,
So
internet, I want you to in the modern times, go look up Blippy and look at what Blippy did before he was a child's host.
I gotta say, I thought you made that up when you were telling me about it, and I googled it and I was like, oh, this really happened.
Nice.
Yeah. So Blippy, yeah, Blippy is becoming quite the guy, and yeah, he's got some disgusting things in his past.
He
But
does.
anyway, the Death of Smoochy thing, I'll put the trailer in the show notes. I'm going to watch the film again because I need to see it as an adult. And that was kind of honestly, I looked up Barney earlier this year because something made me think of it months and months back. And I was like, wonder how this got started, and so when this documentary was dropping, I was like, that's so cool. I was just kind of reading about some of this, and it immediately made me think Death to Smoochy because of the controversies and all that stuff, and just kind of the wild behind the scenes lives of kid show hosts and the things that go on there. So uh, anyway, that's apparently it was a huge flop commercially.
Yeah, it was part of the Robin Williams like semi-dramatic turn that he did there for a couple of years, where he did a few movies like
He's
that.
definitely the villain of this film,
Yeah.
and it apparently just did not do. It was a huge flop, and but it's one of those that I think has kind of cult status now. People really like it. They're like, it's a fantastic movie. It just didn't get people forget about it. So anyway, I'll put that in the show notes and some other trailers and things. And but I feel like we've pretty much we have bashed Barney enough
We have.
for one show.
And people made fun of Barney because he's fictional, but another fictional character that they would never make fun of.
Hmm. I don't know.
Well, we're coming up on his 2-year anniversary, but I'm David Pumpkins.
Oh,
Any questions?
and there you have it, David Pumpkins, and he's gone. Just like always, he's very good at that. He's so good at just tying these things together. It's like he's a pro or something. Anyway, we want to thank you for joining us here on Group Chat After Dark once again. It was great to be back in the saddle with Magnum, whatever his name is, Smoochy, Barney, BB, Baby. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We love having you here. I'm sure we got some of this stuff wrong. Just roll with it. We're not journalists. We're just two guys that like to talk to each other in group chat. Speaking of, you should go to our website and buy our shit. We have a lot of it. And it's not good, but you'll be supporting us. Go to RideThatDonkeyProductions.com, DukeHouston.com, ToddSux.com, GroupChatAfterDark.com. I don't know, there's probably more I'm forgetting. Go buy some stuff. Go watch some short films. Go see some terrible content we've made that's not this. Just go enjoy yourselves and engross yourselves in everything that is Group Chat After Dark.